identify exactly who's who. This entire journey has been about irregular warfare, identifying espionage assets and traitors, stopping the child trafficking, stopping the deep underground military experimentation, nefarious sacrificial, child sacrificial, Luciferian sacrificial areas. There's just so many angles. At the same time, all this is happening. We're taking back the economic sector. We're attempting to right the academic sector. We're attempting to right the legal and healthcare sectors. We're setting up tribunals for the COVID crime, and preparing for the dismantling of the military, medical, industrial complex and big pharma. This is a worldwide, vast operation going on. And so I know that that's a long answer, but to tie it back to the southern border and things like that, the human trafficking operations, if we don't track where everything goes, then we risk one thing escaping, and we cannot allow that to happen. We can let no one escape this.
But if you have 18 million people that are coming across the border and being brought into different, states around the United States, how are you ever going to be able to get 18 million people? Like, you can't bring them all back. It's going to change the fabric of our country. Not saying that they can't be implemented in there. What do you think the alliance's plan with all the ones that have come in?
I think the alliance plan, as it pertains to a lot of the actual militants that are coming in, most of them are paid. Most of them sort of, here by design on a contract, right? Soros money. We hear that a lot, Soros money. If their money is suddenly worth nothing, they're not going to work for free. Some of them might, many of them might, but a vast majority of them will simply seek profit elsewhere. They're in this for the money. They're not in this for, to make a principled statement around the world, if you will. I've heard different theories with people discussing that if a financial crash were to happen and then a simultaneous rollout of currency, sort of a wealth redistribution to we the people around the world following that, I've heard different people say that conditions for something like that could be that you must be present in your country of citizenship or country of origin. That would be a very big encouragement for individuals all over the world to return to their home countries for that sort of, participation in the prosperity pie, if you will. Now that could be, and to keep with the pie, that could be a pie in the sky discussion. I haven't seen a whole lot of corroboration on that, but sensibly it would make a lot of sense. We know that the financial system has to come down. The petrodollar cannot continue to stand in its current form because it funds evil. And because of the vast influence and the networks all around the world where these monies go, we can't drain them all before we cut the dollar off. We have to cut the dollar off at some point. I think we've been working our way towards that with a number of things: the military aid to Ukraine, the dollar aid to Ukraine, the U.S. dollars involved in the crypto exchanges, Wall Street firms losing profits and things like that. We're seeing a decline of the dollar on purpose. But eventually that decline has to really accelerate to the point where it has no more power around the world. That would be a perfect lead-in to disempower individuals that are doing things for the dollar and introduce a new way of financial life. Now, how that process looks, could be anybody's guess, Dr. Marie. It could go a number of different ways, but as we go through this awakening, military justice, and redefinition of our life, what we're learning, I think, in this, you're discussing 18 million people, what we're learning, a good lesson is not to fall asleep at the wheel. We got lulled into a comatose state, really, by these individuals, and we can never allow ourselves, as we the people, as humanity, to be so brainwashed and manipulated ever again. We're supposed to be the rulers of this world, and we totally abdicated that. It was taken from us, but over time, it became our responsibility to take it back, and now we are finally doing that.
Well, and as I travel around the country a lot, you still see people wearing the mask. In fact, I was on, flying back from Nashville, and there was a guy with a double mask on, a flight attendant. And you just almost want to say, take the mask off. It's like, come on. But, it's not going to do any good to tell them. And I know on May 2nd, 2020, we were in California, the first state that shut down. And I remember waking up on May 2nd, 2020, and I heard the voice of God say these words: "We won't shut up until you open the heavens." It is a spiritual battle, and we can't shut up. I mean, we've got to speak up. And if everybody would have said, no, hell no, I'm not going to take this shot. I'm not going to wear that mask. They didn't legislate it. It wasn't mandated, isn't legislated. And so they couldn't have done anything. It was because people allowed themselves to be, literally, people, oh, I'm going to lose my job. Well, then quit, then find another job, whatever it's going to take. Now we're seeing with the pilots, around the country, a lot of these pilots were jabbed, and there's been a lot of incidents that I've heard of pilots with some, catastrophic scenarios that almost happened. Like these pilots that are flying, a lot of them took, I don't know what they had to take, two jabs and then a booster. Do you know what the mandates were for the pilots?
I believe it was what you just said, 2 jabs and then the first booster series that was rolled out. And the FAA, it's interesting you bring that up, the FAA quietly broadened their health acceptance guidelines for pilots, particularly that they no longer are required to have an EKG. This is, and this sort of highlights, right? This highlights for the normies and the sleepers and us as the awakened patriots as well, all of us out here, it highlights what's really going on. The bureaucracy is more concerned with extermination than preservation. They would rather sacrifice themselves because they know that they're going to be found out. This is too far along, but they can't, and too many of us know who all of these people are now. They'll never be able to hide again. So I think this is a situation we're being shown where our government's turned on us, and all agencies and various factions of our governments all through the world turned on us to the point where they were willing to take us down along with them. So we sort of have to acknowledge that that's what we're up against and really, move forward in this process, dispense with the justice and get through this journey, and then resolve to never allow this to happen again. We're spiritual beings that have incredible power, but outside of our spiritual power, we have remarkable minds. We have incredibly capable creative faculties and intelligence that can control and direct things in this world, including our own actions. And we really have to take responsibility for that. And to your point, when you were discussing earlier, the double masking and things like that, that is a mind control response. That individual does not even realize that all of the power they have has been taken from them because somebody else made a decision about their health. They simply moved into the action, but they took that action because somebody else made that decision. They didn't make that decision. It's worth highlighting that that's what we're learning. We're learning how to assess and make our own decisions again. And we can't rule this world and change this world for the better until we've bettered ourselves. And I think this is a trial by fire by God. I think it's a war between good and evil. And I think we will learn a lesson as humanity as we go through this that we'll never, ever forget.
Well, and even when it first started rolling out in 2020, I remember I really felt compelled to watch that movie Eyes Wide Shut again with Tom Cruise. And I don't know if you remember the film, but they went into this place where these globalists or elites were doing this ceremony, and you had to wear a mask, and it was pretty interesting. And the fact that we had to 666, how we had to be 6 feet apart. And I had people say, you go into a school and you see 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. It was all a satanic ritual. And so I think what they were rolling out, I think they were trying to see, SG, how much will they comply? And I do believe that they have other pandemics planned. And people just have to go, no, I'm not gonna take this jab. I'm not gonna take any other jabs. And in fact, even with childhood vaccines, so many of these kids that get vaccinated when you're young, especially the MMRs, is causing, autism in many children, in particular boys. And so you see what's happening with our children, and they're trying to mandate this COVID jab for children, which we know that it's going to cause sterility, 70% sterility in the women and the men. So this is where their depopulation agenda comes in. And so we really have to stand up and really get educated, in particular with this, because these big pharma's making, a ton of money. So in reference to, as we kind of round off the program today, SG, I kind of, there, you lost your face for a second. As we round up the show today, I know that I'm always hopeful only because what I've I believe God has told me that He is going to bring in the greatest show on earth. It is always the darkest before the dawn. You know, at Christmas time, I really researched the American Revolution in 1776, the Christmas miracle, when General Washington crossed the Delaware. You know, they were down to almost 2,000 men. There's no way they could win in the natural. And, you know, they had an appeal to heaven flag, that it was a white flag with a pine tree. And General Washington knew that he had to appeal to God. There was no way in the natural realm that the Continental Army could have won. And so I believe we're in that place right now. No matter how dark, I'm speaking to the people watching, that we really have to have hope and we really have to pray, but take action. And so I know, like Kevin McCarthy, of course, became Speaker of the House, and you know, there was a number of times it didn't look like he was going to, you know, get it. And then it seemed like they gave him those list of things that, you know, he had to abide by. How do you think that's going to be a game changer?
You know, that it sort of remains to be seen, but I think that we have some interesting things going on with Kevin. During that entire process, it's worth highlighting for the folks watching. Many of you already may know this, but it's worth highlighting that during that process, Marjorie Taylor Greene was caught on camera on a phone call with an individual with the initials DT. That's not a coincidence, and it's not a coincidence that went so public so quickly. It's not a coincidence that we had 15 separate votes for Speaker of the House January 6th and then into the early morning hours of January 7th, and we had a Q Delta